Morgan Whittaker is an absolute disgrace. I don't know what was going through his head last night, but he was certainly not on the right planet because he decided to sit out of the game with Plymouth and Burnley. He refused to play. Miron Muslic said that he has actually selected him for the squad and he didn't turn up. Apparently, he turned up to the game late, and there he is, sat in the stands with his hood up and not even showing his face because he is so embarrassed to show himself after what is nothing short of embarrassing for him. I feel sorry for Burnley fans if they're going to end up signing Morgan Whittaker, and I feel sorry for Middlesbrough fans as well. I don't know who's actually going to sign him. People are saying that he might be going to Borough. Other people saying he might be going to Burnley. I mean, if he ends up, he might not end up going to any of them. And if he doesn't go to any of these clubs, he needs to be put into the under-23s and completely forgotten about for the rest of the season for Plymouth. I don't think Muslic will even put up with what he's just seen. This is what Muslic actually had to say in the post-match interview after the match. He said that Morgan Whittaker was available for selection, but he said in quotes that he didn't show up for the game. Now, Morgan Whittaker has had a bit of a history of attitude problems. He does always seem to go missing in games as well. You've got to question his attitude on the field. There's no doubt there's an absolute quality player in there, and whatever club he goes to, they've got potential of unlocking a great player, which we saw under Schumacher about a year ago now. But it's been the last 12 months where Morgan Whittaker, he's not been absolutely terrible, don't get me wrong, but he's definitely not hit the levels that he hit in the previous, or at the start of the season for Plymouth last season. And there's no doubt that Plymouth probably wouldn't even be in the Championship if it wasn't for Morgan Whittaker's goals, especially in that first half of the season. He is definitely their key player, but there's been massive question marks over for 12 months now, as I say, where he just hasn't quite showed up. And that attitude there with him refusing to play kind of sums up the way that he's been in the last 12 months. And really, without him, Plymouth do look toothless. They look toothless with him, but even more so without him. They lack goals in the side. They need multiple signings. It might be a blessing in disguise if Morgan Whittaker does end up leaving. I don't know what kind of fee. We'll be talking about maybe 5 to 8 million, somewhere in that kind of region. And apparently, if Plymouth are to sell him, they are to reinvest all that money into the squad. And there's no doubt Muslic will want to have his own, stamp his own authority on that squad with his signings. And with that Morgan Whittaker money, it can definitely help bolster the squad, which is definitely needed. So if a player doesn't want to be there, Morgan Whittaker, Muslic doesn't sound like the guy that he's going to be messing about and sticking with him and, putting up with that. He will be gone. I think Morgan Whittaker will be gone to either Borough or Burnley. We'll talk about how he fit into them squads in a bit, but I think he'll definitely be off. And as I say, Plymouth need to reinvest that money in the squad. They're already in serious trouble. I personally think they're already relegated. The way they defended yesterday was absolutely embarrassing. And I don't think any manager, it doesn't matter if it was Wayne Rooney before Muslic now, they could get Pep Guardiola in. And I really don't think it's going to change anything at Plymouth. I think they're just absolutely done for. To be honest, the way Morgan Whittaker's gone about this, you would have thought that he's Plymouth's key player. This guy's an absolute star for the last 12 months. He's absolutely carrying this Plymouth team. And you think with the way his attitude is, he's like Ronaldo playing in a Plymouth team. No. It's Morgan Whittaker playing in a Plymouth team who scored 3 goals in 20 games and got 1 assist. And as I said before, he's ghosted in half the matches that he's played for Plymouth. And Swansea fans have definitely, I've had an opinion on this, and they absolutely question the attitude of Morgan Whittaker as well. So this seems to be a common thing. And even Derby fans have said the same thing. He's kind of got these issues which multiple clubs have said, which is only going to be taken forward into wherever he goes next. If it's Burnley, if it's Middlesbrough, you'd imagine these kind of attitude issues and these kind of question marks might show up again for Morgan Whittaker. As I say, there's no doubt there's a player in there, but his attitude does need to be sorted out. And also, do we actually all owe Wayne Rooney an apology? Because to pick up as many points he did as Plymouth boss, they weren't absolutely out of it when he got sacked. They were definitely on the way to getting relegated, don't get me wrong. But maybe the criticism was a little bit harsh, because you look at that Plymouth squad, it is nowhere near good enough. And as I said before, it doesn't matter what manager's in charge, then that group of players just isn't good enough realistically. So maybe everyone's being a bit harsh on Wayne Rooney. I know it's easy just to fire shots at him due to what happened to Birmingham, and what's happened in his overall managerial career and the way that he goes about things. But there's no denying that this Plymouth squad isn't good enough anyway, and he didn't do, looking back at it, an absolutely catastrophic job. I don't think he did that because he just didn't get backed by the ownership. So with one of the clubs being interested in Middlesbrough, I'm seeing him linked a lot, and I'm seeing Middlesbrough fans getting quite excited at the potential of that front three behind the striker of Finn Azaz, Ben Doak and Morgan Whittaker with Latte Lath at front. It does sound unbelievable. Then you've got Morris in centre mid with Hackney as well. You've got that does sound like a top level Championship attack. Now, can Michael Carrick bring the best out of a player like Morgan Whittaker? As I say, he's struggled in the last 12 months. He hasn't been at the form that he was at when he was playing under Schumacher. But if anyone can, Michael Carrick, he's very, very good at getting the best out of attacking players. We've seen that with Finn Azaz. Obviously, Whittaker and Azaz playing together at Plymouth previously as well. Obviously, have that kind of connection already. And you've seen, as I say, that Michael Carrick has brought the best out of a lot of attacking players. in that Middlesbrough side. Defensively, obviously, Middlesbrough is where the questions more lie. But that front four, there's no doubt a front four of Whittaker, Ben Doak on the other side, Finn Azaz in the 10, and then Latte up front genuinely sounds like that is a promotion-worthy attack. As from a Burnley perspective, if he was to sign for Burnley, I do think Burnley definitely need a winger. They need a winger that can score some more goals. They need more goals in general. Like, Josh Brown has been the main source of goals for Burnley over the course of the season, which is a little bit concerning when he is kind of like... I mean, he is kind of playing in the 10 role at the moment, but he's more of an 8, he's a kind of a box-to-box midfielder. They need a winger that can actually chip in with more goals. Jaden Anthony I like, but he just, simply put, in the recent seasons, he just hasn't done enough in terms of output for my liking anyway. As I say, I still think he's a good player, but he needs to be helped out. And I think on the left side, Morgan Whittaker would fit into that side very, very well. He can kind of play, Morgan Whittaker can play kind of anywhere across the front line as well. But I think on the left side for Burnley, he could be decent, but it's the way that Scott Parker plays, the way that Burnley play. Would that really bring the best out of Morgan Whittaker? Then they're not the most expressive team, Burnley. They're very defensive-minded side, as proven by the fact they've only conceded 9 goals this season. They haven't scored a massive amount of goals. I know they put 5 past Plymouth last night, but that was a very, very rare sight to see Burnley score that many. But there's no doubt he has individual brilliance, which we saw against Brentford when Morgan Whittaker scored that goal, cutting in for off the right-hand side that was, for Plymouth in their 1-0 win against Brentford. He has that kind of individual brilliance, and he can score a goal out of nothing. I remember earlier on in the season, he scored such a nice goal against QPR from the edge of the box. And that's what Burnley kind of need. They need somebody that can pull something out of the bag, out of nowhere. And he definitely is a moments player in terms of that. And as I say, the way that Scott Parker plays, it might suit him in terms of that, but in terms of actual being able to express yourself in an attacking, free-flowing side, I don't think Burnley is quite the right place for Morgan Whittaker. I would prefer to see him at Middlesbrough. I think that would be a really exciting signing, but he will be quite expensive. But I think from a Plymouth perspective, it's probably best to get rid and just cut your losses, because at the end of the day, his attitude and the way that he's been, I don't think there's any coming back from that, in all fairness. We saw it with Rowe at Norwich. He ended up going on to Marseille. He a kind of similar thing happened with Rowe at the start of the season, and that didn't work out at all. I think Nonto had it as well, but Nonto's managed to win the Leeds fans back after he refused to play. But generally, there's no going back from that situation. So let me know, where do you think Morgan Whittaker will end up in the comment section down below. Thank you very much for watching. This was actually my first video on this channel. If you're from the TikTok, then do subscribe. And if you've enjoyed it anyway, do hit subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. Drop a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.